Our next topic is the secret lives of bacteria. Now it's going to get really weird. Did you know that just as you might not be 100% German or English or Spanish or whatever you thought you were, or our audience might not be 100% Japanese, did you know that you might not even be 100% human being? And in fact, you're not. Because along with the 37 trillion or so cells that make up our bodies, there's actually another 37 trillion or so bacteria that co-inhabit our bodies with those cells. Now, as a scientist, you already knew that, but this is weirding me out a little bit because I'm realizing that I'm only about 50% human, and the other 50% is bacterial colonies. And so, in fact, I'm not a being. I'm actually a whole, ecosystem.
You are. And if you want to get a little more weird?
Yeah.
The fact is that about 8% of the human genome, the DNA, is actually viral DNA that's been inserted over the millennia. And then we can go even a little farther.
Yeah.
And back in the day when bacteria were together and were liking each other so much, one became part of the other. And we see that now in the human cell in the form of the mitochondria. They're actually a bacterial remnant.
Right.
And so now we've got viruses and bacteria all over the place. But why would that be? And I think the reason for that is because we need them.
Now, I heard that we couldn't even survive if it weren't for the bacteria, because the human genome and our inherent characteristics are really not very flexible and not very changeable. Not nearly as much so, at least, as the bacteria.
No, not at all.
Man's ability to adapt to different climates or different ages or nutrition and to survive, in fact, is dependent on the bacteria. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of us have gone overseas and we end up with the stomach upset for a few days as our bacteria is shifting to go from whatever diet we had to whatever diet we're in now.
Yeah.
The human genome has not changed much in the last thousands of years. But a bacteria genome can change in minutes. But here's the thing is that we control our gut bacteria.
Well, now, I thought it was the other way around. Like, for instance, okay, this is the part that weirds me out, but the vagus nerve connects the gut with the brain such that I don't realize it, but half of the thoughts and impulses, cravings for food, whatever they might be that I'm having, or at least many of them, are not mine. They are from the colonies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
And so, just realizing that gives me a whole different view of who's managing whom.
Well, that's true. The gut has been called a second brain.
Uh-huh.
And we control it by the foods we eat. We create a bacterial colony. So if we're eating a lot of sweets, for example, well, they survived and thrived and multiplied based on sweets. And when they run out of sweets, they're saying, hey, give me some more sweets. And so zoom up the vagus nerve signal goes to the brain and said, feed me.
Yeah.
And what am I asking for? I'm asking for sweets.
Yeah.
And so if we can make the transition in terms of our diet to the point where the bacteria now are developed on other foods, we can reduce our cravings to be able to get that, to crave something else, maybe crave something more healthy.
So if I'm having a craving for a bad food, I can just kind of wake myself up and say, no, that's not me. That's those bad bacteria that are craving that. And I have the power to say no. And as I do so, I can then feed the better bacteria and be a little more in control.
Sometimes it helps if you have there's a couple of herbs that we use to help control that sweet craving, and that can make a whole lot of difference when it comes to your willpower.
All right. Well, this has been fascinating, but I guess my question for the audience is, how do you feel about your bacterial nature?